Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. My name is Gene Jake and this is my top 10 games of 2024 on the Evercade. Crazy Burger recently released a video doing this exact same thing, and I was umming and ahhing whether I would do one, but well, here it is. Here's my take on it. There's some similar things and some different things because, people have different tastes and everything. And I'm sure mine will be different to most people's or many people's, although some games obviously are so good they're going to cross over. Obviously, it's all just opinion, or my opinion in this case. It's all pretty meaningless, and if you're watching this, you're either bored or maybe just interested in what I have to say. Either way, hopefully you'll enjoy it somewhat, maybe. In making this list, what I did is I took my two favourite games from every collection released in 2024, and then I used that to whittle down into a top 10 list. Some things just got ejected completely because although they may have been my favourite from that collection, they had no business being in the top 10. And some games I was debating, do I keep this and do I keep that? Mostly I kept them because either they do something different or they have that sort of element of discovery. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get on with the actual ranking itself. Coming in at number 10 from the C64 Collection Volume 3 is Boulder Dash. This is a game I played back in the day and I really enjoyed it, but it's also a game that I'd pretty much forgotten about or just pushed aside, and it's not a line of gaming or a genre that really kept going or that had a lot of love or desire to go back to. So when it came to Evercade, I was, yeah, that's cool, I enjoyed that game, and I found myself enjoying it much more than I ever had before. And the reason it makes this list is because it is something a little bit different from most of the other games on this list, but that sense of rediscovery I had, and that's a theme that you may find comes up a few times in these rankings. Sure, it's not the best looking game. I mean, it's a C64 game, and let's be honest, the graphics for the C64 haven't aged that well, and I completely understand why some people don't like the C64 collections or find them hard to get into. But Boulder Dash is a straightforward, simple, fun game that can get quite challenging and I wouldn't say frustrating, although trying to work out some of the levels and the more obtuse things can be a little bit frustrating at times, but it's fun to come back to. And coming in at number 9 is Last Mission from the Data East Arcade Collection 2. This is one that I'd never played before the cartridge was announced, and I checked it out on, through other emulators and quite enjoyed it, and I've continued to really enjoy it while, playing it on the cartridge. I'm not quite sure what the draw of it is for me. It's just one I enjoy picking up for a quick bash or a bit of a blast. It's quite simple, it's nothing absolutely amazing, but I find myself coming back to it and just enjoying a short bash on it. And for that reason alone, it has made it onto this list because I do just keep coming back to it, and it is my most played game of that collection. Although, to be fair, some games on there I haven't put that much time into yet. For anyone that hasn't played or picked up the collection yet, it's a fairly straightforward multi-directional shooter. You go through the levels and you have the radar thing showing you enemy locations on the bottom. You go around blasting enemies, building up the star meter at the bottom, and when that's filled up, the boss will appear and you fight that and destroy it. Rinse and repeat through a whole bunch of levels, which do get increasingly difficult in true arcade game fashion, or any game fashion to be fair. It is simple stuff, and there's a bit of strategy to it, and what power-ups you pick where up when. If you get to the boss and you've got no power-ups, it's going to be a much harder battle than it would be if you're fully powered up and you can just blast away at it. Might even fairly quickly in some cases, because the power-ups, they only last for so long. They're essentially timed power-ups. So yeah, there's a little bit of strategy there, and it's just a fun blast. And coming in at number 8 is Creatures 2 from the Thalamus collection. Now, I could have put Hunter's Moon or the first Creatures on here. Those are games that I really enjoyed on that collection. Although I found Hunter's Moon, I was starting to run out of enthusiasm for it later on in the game. And the first Creatures I have a lot of nostalgia for, but ultimately it's a very frustrating game. And once I beat it, having to abuse save states to beat it, but once I beat it, I haven't had much desire to get back to it. Creatures 2 I've just genuinely really enjoyed playing through, working out the torture screens, just being more puzzle based than platform based than the first game. Yeah, I just found myself really captivated by it. But also it helps that I hadn't really played this one back in the day. I was aware of it, I think I played a demo of it, but yeah, playing it on Evercade, I've been working my way through it gradually. I still haven't quite finished the game. Some of the puzzles do get quite tough, but yeah, I've been really enjoying the game. So yeah, it's been a good sort of mixture of nostalgia and discovery on this one for me, which is why it's made the list. I'm sure it wouldn't for many people, but well, it's my list at the end of the day. And coming in at number 7 is Truxton 2 from Turplan Arcade 3. Anyone who's seen my various video reviews of the Turplan collections know that I have been just really enjoying their shoot 'em ups. Well, enjoying a lot of the games from them, but yeah, I've been really getting into the Turplan shoot 'em ups, and Truxton 2 is one of the ones that I find the most fun to just pick up and play, have a blast, enjoy the music, often just doing 1 credit runs and not really getting that far, but it's just such a joy to play. It's, like I say, the combination of the nice visuals, the pulse pounding music, just satisfying explosions, and yeah, genuinely fun gameplay. Pretty straightforward in that respect, but yeah, I've had an absolute blast with it. Pun absolutely intended. To be fair, many of the Turplan games could have ended up on this list, and this isn't the only one, but I did deliberately cut some back, some just for maybe I've had a bit less fun with them, and we're looking at how much time I've put into them as a whole, and ultimately how much I've come back to them once I've finished the game, how many times I've wanted to come back to them doing, not say 1 credit runs or just having a quick blast at it, or how much I've just genuinely enjoyed that experience in the moment-to-moment gameplay. And coming in at number 6 is one that was all new to me, and that is Euphoria, or Euphoria the Saga from the Sunsoft Collection 2. This is a game that I'd never played before. I'd only heard of it around the time when people started talking about Sunsoft collections, and I didn't really know anything of it. I know it's part of the Evercade series, or is a westernised version of Evercade. I think I'm saying it correctly there. It's I wouldn't say Metroidvania type platformer, but it's a open or non-linear platformer. You have multiple characters to select, and it's just very charming. In fact, I'd say it's an absolute joy to play. It gave me a sense of nostalgia, even though I'd never played it before, and I never owned an NES back in the day. But something about it just, it gave me nostalgic feelings for that era of gameplay, or gaming rather. So yeah, it absolutely had to be on this list, and it says something about whether it's my personal nostalgia or just to get the quality of some of the other games up further, that it didn't even make the top 5, but it was close. Earlier in the year, it probably would have been a contender for my game of the year. And coming at number 5 in my ranking is Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. This is a game that I played back in the day, and I've always been a fan of the series, particularly the first 2 ones that we have on Evercade, and let's be honest, it is a bit flawed and janky in places. There are, it's not a perfect game, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of the story, the overall vibe, and what it's going for, and I just thoroughly enjoyed playing through it, and I could overlook the flaws quite easily. So yeah, there's a large amount of nostalgia here, and I suppose personal preference for the aesthetics and the world sort of design, the world building, everything going on. So gameplay, it probably maybe doesn't deserve to be on this list compared to many of the others. It is much more my cup of tea than other games, and it's also a game that I hadn't really played since playing it back on the PlayStation in 1996. So going back into it and rediscovering it and thoroughly enjoying it, and in fact I'd forgotten most of the game, really helped me kind of embrace this and absolutely love playing through it again. And coming in at number 4 is one that, well, I imagine many people wouldn't place this highly, and that is Cadaver from the Bitmap Brothers Collection Volume 2. It's an isometric puzzle adventure. It's clunky to control. There's no in-game music. It's absolutely possible to lock yourself out of completing a level of the game and having to start over. Yeah, there's things against it, and there's reasons why many people will probably bounce off of it. But if you can persevere and you have enough interest in, I suppose, the setting, the style of game, and everything to persevere with it, there is an absolutely fantastic and challenging adventure here. It's really not for everyone, and like I said, I fully understand people that bounce off it, but I played this back in the day and I was really interested in it. I found it fascinating. Again, I was a kid that's into like D&D and Lord of the Rings and all this sort of stuff, so it's my cup of tea in that respect. And I never got very far as a kid. I got absolutely stumped. I died. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was fairly young, but I tried and I enjoyed trying. I was really interested in coming back to it on the Evercade and seeing if I could do better, and I did. I've played through the game, and I had to use a walkthrough in places. I found a really useful one which kind of has visual things for the room, so I could just, if I got really stumped, I could use it to kind of get myself in the right direction but not spoil it too much, so I could still have the joy of solving the puzzles. And I had to make very careful use of the save states, because the puzzles can be quite obtuse, and although there's redundancies in the puzzles, it is possible to lock yourself out of the game and have to start over. But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed going through it, and I will also go through the expansion, the payoff at some point. I've been holding off on doing that for the moment. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this game. Had an absolute, I won't say blast with it, it's not right, but yeah, I've just found it entirely engrossing, and yeah, it's been one of my most played games for this year. So yeah, makes the list, although I doubt it will make many other people's list. Okay, so we're getting into the top 3 here, and these are all very close, and I'll explain why I've put some over others, But coming in at number 3 is Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. This is a game that I played and completed on the Dreamcast back in the day. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favourite Dreamcast games, along with Soul Calibur and Shadow Man and some others. But yeah, this one really stood out to me back then. So it was no surprise I really enjoyed it. In some ways, the PS1 version is a bit of a downgrade to what I was used to, but again, it still works fine, it plays fine, and once again, I found myself really getting into the lore, the setting, the action, and I had an absolute blast with it. The reason it's ended up 3rd on this list, however, is whereas, say, the original Blood Omen, which is technically a less impressive game than Soul Reaver, other games further on I either hadn't played before or remembered less. Soul Reaver had a very clear memory of, so in many ways it was, I suppose, less of a revelation to me. It's not like I'd forgotten how good it was, I remembered how good it was, and this just reminded me of it. So the impact on playing it again was, I suppose, slightly diminished compared to, say, what I had with Blood Omen and the next game on the list. Even so, it is absolutely a fantastic game, and I think it holds up really well. The Legacy of Kain collection is one of my favourite collections of this year, so yeah, it's not surprising that this is right near the top of the list. And taking the number 2 spot is Tomb Raider, the original one. Now, being perfectly honest, I still haven't played through Tomb Raiders 2 and 3 on the Evercade yet, so I don't know where they would end up on this list. But I did enjoy Tomb Raider 2 back in the day, so yeah, I'm sure they'd end up possibly quite high. But this original Tomb Raider, like I said, I did play it back in the day, I finished it, and I really enjoyed it. And obviously Tomb Raider 2 as well, but I'd largely forgotten them. There were other games that came out later, be it Soul Reaver or other PS1 games, that sort of made me overlook it, I suppose, being a slightly earlier PlayStation game. There's just other things that sort of topped it for me back in the day, or just were more exciting, or I was maybe more into as a teenager. So coming back to Tomb Raider, I knew it'd be a good game. I wasn't sure how the controls would hold up, but I think they've held up fantastically. Once you get used to them, they actually work in favour of the gameplay. It gives you a real sense of exploration and danger and navigating these dangerous environments. And yeah, I think it works as a whole, and I found myself thoroughly enjoying playing through it. I would do essentially a level a day, and it might take me 45 minutes to an hour and a half depending on the level. And yeah, I just had an absolute fantastic time rediscovering it, trying to remember things. Some bits I remembered quite well, some bits I didn't. And yeah, it's a really good challenge. It's an absolutely fun game, and yeah, I've just one of the best experiences I've had on the Evercade this year, so which is why it's ended up number 2 on the list, and could easily have ended up number 1, except it got pipped out by something that is just pure fun, and that is Batsugan, particularly the Batsugan Special. I mean, both versions are, it's a fantastic game, both versions are very good, but the Special just has a little bit more to it. At the end of the day, you're having the looping, I suppose in some ways being a little bit easier as well, with the smaller hitboxes and things like that. And yeah, I've just had an absolute blast playing this one, and the amount of times I've just come back, done 1 credit runs to push on, get a bit further, has been fantastic. I mean, I've looped the game and played through it a few times, but primarily I do the 1 credit runs, and I just have just fun. And that's all I can say for it. It's a great looking game, fantastic music, and it's a joy to play. As simple as that. And the reason it's made the top of the list is, well, all those things, but ultimately this is a game that I'd never played before, and so there's the discovery. It's a shooter, so it's slightly nostalgic in that respect. But yeah, it's the discovery and pure fun I've had with this one, which made it my top game of the year. So anyway, that's my top 10 Evercade games of 2024. I'm sure your opinions will vary, and yeah, maybe they might be drastically different. I'd be surprised if some choices would be possibly in people's lower end of the year. Things like Cadaver, Creatures 2, I mean the C64 stuff, I can imagine they would be in some people's bottom of lists. But there's also, saying that, I think I've got a couple of honourable mentions, games that maybe don't have business being on this list, or ones that missed out, but I still think were fantastic. I mean, Donut Dodo is one, but I still see it, because it came out Game of the Month in 2023, I kind of have that kind of, was that a 2023 game? But again, great fun little game. I'm not as impressed with it as many other people, but I did enjoy it. I actually preferred Choo Choo Mimic from that collection, and that is one that I did consider putting on this list, and it fell by the wayside. But yeah, it's a great game. What kept it short for me is once I'd beaten all 100 levels and managed to get all the coins, it just felt I haven't had much desire to come back to it, which is essentially why it didn't make the list. But again, fantastic game. Also, Paradroid from the C64 Collection 3. Love that game, and if I had played it more on the Evercade than I have so far, it might have made the list. At the moment, it's a very sort of nostalgia pick, so it didn't quite make the list. Another game I really enjoyed but had absolutely no business being anywhere near this list is Risky Woods from the Pico Collection 4. Again, I had a lot of fun with it, but I know it's not really a good game. Yes, it's got nice graphics and some pretty decent music, but it's an arsehole of a game, and it's frustrating, it's flawed, and yeah, it has no business being on a list like this, but I kind of like it. Anyway, I think that should do. This is quite a long enough video at this point anyway. Yeah, if you have opinions, thoughts, want to tell me I'm an idiot, whatever, yeah, just get in the comments below. Anyway, I'll see you on the next video, which will probably drop tomorrow.